Hello, my name's Anna and today I'll be interviewing Terry Waite. Terry Waite was kidnapped in 1987 during a trip to Beirut in Lebanon, where he was sent as the envoy to the Archbishop of Canterbury to negotiate the release of several hostages. During the majority of his 1,760-day spell at the hands of his captives, he was starved of contact with the outside world. He was released in 1991. How did you come to be held hostage?
I was working in the field of hostage negotiation and had been successful in terms of releasing people in Iran and Libya and other parts of the world. And you know, when you do something like that, you always know that there's a chance something might go wrong. I was promised safe conduct to see people who were ill and said someone was going to die. I was dubious myself, but I trusted, and of course that trust was broken. I was taken hostage. 5 years.
What sort of treatment did you endure during your captivity?
Well, it wasn't good. I was in solitary confinement for 4.5 years. I was chained to the wall by hands and feet, had one visit to the bathroom a day, and no companionship, no books or papers for many years, just a dark room. So I had a mock execution and was beaten around a bit.
Did your captors' behaviour change towards you over time?
Well, towards the end it became a little easier, not much, but a little easier, but it was never easy, really. And of course they were under strict orders to make sure that we sort of didn't escape and were kept there.
How did you cope with your isolation?
You get used to it. I mean, to be in solitary confinement without anything, without being able to see the sky, or walk, or take exercise, or read, or do anything. I mean, you can imagine you sitting on the floor, chained up for all those years. That's not an easy thing to do. But you get accustomed to it, and you have to learn to develop your active imagination, to live from within.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and that's when I began to write in my head. I wrote my first book in my head. It takes a while to readjust to life because you've been accustomed to being away for so long. And the great thing is take it one step at a time, you know, not to rush into things. I was lucky. I was elected to a fellowship at Trinity Hall in Cambridge, and I lived in college for the middle part of the week and went home at weekends, and it was there that I put on paper the book that I'd written in my head during those years.
How do you feel about your kidnappers now?
They were desperate people adopting desperate measures, and I've been back and seen them and tried to build something creative out of that experience, because the only way we're going to deal with some of the conflicts in the world is for ordinary people such as you and me to really try and build relationships with those whom we don't agree with. Now, one or two people like that, it's impossible. People who are extreme fanatics, who are, one might say, psychopathic, you have great difficulty, but that's not the majority. The majority of people in the world want peace, and what we have to do is forge those relationships and begin to find ways of understanding and putting the past in the past and trying to build something creative for the future.
When you were held in captivity, did you have those same feelings you have now, or was it more?
Well, I felt sympathy for these lads. I mean, they joined an organisation, they were trapped in it, there was no way out for them. And, I could feel that degree. I mean, of course I got angry with them because they'd also taken my liberty, they'd stolen me, they'd stolen my life. So I couldn't say I was entirely pleased. But the great thing about these things is trying to understand why people behave as they behave, and then try and deal with the problem.
You said that they had a mock execution with you. How did that feel? How did that happen? What was the lead up to that? And
well, they told me I had 5 hours to live, and a gun was put to my head, and then it was dropped. How did I feel? I felt afraid. Not afraid of death, but afraid of would it hurt, really? Simply that. Strangely, when you go through an experience like that, you really, it's as though you're standing outside yourself and seeing yourself answering the questions. And somehow I came through it, but it wasn't a pleasant experience. And when I founded an organisation some years ago called Hostage UK, where we work with the families of those who are taken hostage. And there have been some families, where their son has been beheaded, most brutally, terribly. And in working with the families, it's a help to actually have been to the point of death and to be able to understand that and talk to them, the families, as to how one feels and give them some support.
So can you tell us about your event at the Edinburgh International Book Festival?
Well, we live in a depressing world, and you open the newspaper or you see the news on the TV or the radio, you listen to it on the radio. It can be very depressing, and some of the things I've been speaking about are not necessarily pleasant things, not things you can laugh about, really. But it's important in today's world not to lose your sense of humour. And a lot of humour also can be quite cynical. So I thought, well, let me try and do something about that. So I wrote a comic novel, and it's a novel about sailing, about cruising on the high seas. A couple who take a cruise on a ramshackle cruise ship, and the disasters that occur as they go around the world. It's been described as being, on the one hand, totally balmy, which it is, totally balmy humour, and on the other hand, it's been described as the 40 Towers of cruising.